Rain slicked the streets of New York, where yellow cabs threw arcs of dirty water onto the sidewalks. Inside a rundown apartment in a poor neighborhood, the air was thick with the smell of dampness. The only color in the gray space came from the vibrant, childlike drawings of a boy named Leo, taped to the faded walls. Diego sat on an old chair in his greasy work clothes, exhaustion etched onto his face. He stared at a crumpled flyer in his hand. Sophia placed a cup of tea before him. "Thinking about it again, aren't you?" she asked softly. He didn't look up. The flyer was for a children's art camp, its fee a mountain they couldn't climb. "His teacher says this camp could shape his future," Diego said with a bitter smirk. "We can't even manage the present," Sophia said. "We're doing everything we can." "Doing everything?" he said, his voice tight with anger. "Our efforts are like pouring water into sand. The more we struggle, the deeper we sink." Just then, Leo burst in, holding his sketchbook. "Dad, look what I drew! It's a magic forest!" Diego looked at the explosion of bright, lively color, a talent burning fiercely in their dim world. A lump formed in his throat. "It's amazing, champ. You're a real artist." Leo's eyes shone with innocent hope. "Teachers said at the camp they teach you to paint with real oils. I can go, right, Dad?" The question pierced Diego's heart. He glanced at Sophia, seeing his own despair mirrored in her eyes. "We'll see, son," he choked out. Leo, satisfied, went back to his room. Diego clenched the flyer in his fist. "Money is everything, Sophia, and we have nothing." "We have each other," she whispered. "That's the greatest wealth." "Wealth?" he snapped, his voice rising. "What wealth?" "One that can't buy my son a paintbrush or spare me the shame in his eyes. This poverty is eating away at our love." He stood and grabbed his car keys. "Where are you going?" Sophia asked. "You just got home." "Out for a few more rides," he said, not looking at her. "Maybe something good will happen by tomorrow." He left, and the click of the closing door echoed in the heavy silence of the home. Later that same day, the city's perpetual rain streaked the windows of a cheap cafe. Diego sat at a sticky table, the coffee in his cup long gone cold. The weariness he'd brought from home had settled deeper into his bones. Across from him sat two men who knew that same exhaustion well. Marco, another driver whose belly strained against the buttons of his shirt, and Carlos, a construction worker whose life of labor was written into the calluses of his hands. "What's with that face again?" Marco grumbled, gesturing with a thumb toward Diego. "Did the landlord call you, huh?" Diego slowly shook his head, his gaze fixed on the dark liquid in his cup. "Worse, it's about Leo and that camp," Carlos said. "Forget it, man. That stuff isn't for people like us. It's for those who had money from the start. We run ourselves into the ground just to fill our stomachs. Big dreams are for big people." A flash of defiance sparked in Diego. "So my kid doesn't have the right to dream? He doesn't have the right to develop his talent?" "Right?" Marco scoffed, leaning forward on his elbows. "Who's talking about rights, Diego? In this world, whoever's got money is the one who's right. The rest of us just gotta hold on to our hats so the wind doesn't blow them away." He leaned back, his story already forming. "Yesterday I had this passenger, some college girl, bragging on the phone about flying to Paris this weekend to see the Louvre. Paris. I've never even set foot outside this damn city. And yet, look at her." "Exactly," Carlos said. "You think they're smarter than us? That they work harder? No, my friend. Either they had rich daddies or they screwed someone over. Clean money doesn't exist. If you want to be rich, you've got to give things up. Your conscience, your humanity, that's not us. We eat our honest bread and sleep with a clear mind. Diego listened, and their words were a familiar, bitter chorus, echoing the beliefs that had taken root in his own mind over the years. This was the logic of their world, a self-preserving truth that made the impossible feel inevitable. Yeah, maybe you're right, Diego conceded, his shoulders slumping in defeat. We're simple men. Maybe being content with an ordinary life is the smartest choice. Too many dreams only bring pain. He lifted his cup and took a sip of the cold coffee. The bitterness of the drink mixed with the bitterness of his fate, a familiar and unwelcome taste. But as he swallowed, beneath the quiet surrender and the tired agreement, a hidden anger burned, a low, steady flame of resentment against the crushing weight of his own helplessness. Followed bled into one another, a monotonous blur of rain-streaked asphalt and glaring headlights. Diego drove without rest, a man possessed. In his rear-view mirror, the faces of his passengers appeared and vanished like ghosts, each one leaving a fresh wound on his weary soul. There was a businessman in an expensive suit, his voice booming as he bragged into his phone about million-dollar profits. Diego watched him in the mirror, a toxic cocktail of jealousy and contempt brewing in his gut. As the man stepped out onto the curb, Diego muttered under his breath, "God knows how many people you had to step on for that money." Later, a young couple, glowing with excitement, filled his cab. They chattered eagerly about the new home they just bought, the furniture they would choose, the life they would build. Each word was a hammer blow, reminding Diego of his own small, crumbling apartment, and of Sofia, who dreamed of nothing more than a spacious, bright kitchen. He felt his spirit rotting away within the walls of that suffocating little home. Then came a middle-aged woman clutching a large gift box. Her voice was pure joy as she spoke to a friend on her phone. "I finally bought that telescope for my grandson's birthday," she said. "Ever since he said he loved the stars, I've wanted to surprise him." Her words struck Diego like a slap. Love finds its meaning in giving. But if he had nothing to give, how could he still claim to be a loving father? The thought gnawed at him, a relentless torment driving him mad. The rain lashed furiously against the windshield as Diego gripped the wheel, exhaustion weighing on his eyelids like lead. His phone rang, cutting through the rhythmic thrum of the wipers. It was Sofia. "Diego, where are you?" Her voice was tight with worry. "Leo's got a fever. He's really restless." His heart sank. The registration deadline for the art camp was tomorrow morning. He hadn't even gathered half the money. "I'm on my way," he lied, forcing a calm he didn't feel. "Just gonna pick up one more passenger and I'll head home. Don't worry." But he had no intention of going home. He had to work until morning. He had to get the money, no matter what. His foot pressed harder on the gas pedal, and the taxi skidded through the wet, slippery streets. The speedometer crept past the legal limit as logic dissolved in the acid of desperation. There was only one thing on his mind: money. He approached a crossroad just as the traffic light turned yellow. Instead of slowing, he accelerated. "Gotta make it through," he breathed. "Gotta save just one more minute." Suddenly, from the right, a pair of blinding headlights burst into view. The deafening horn of a monstrous truck pierced the chaos of the storm. Diego had no time to react. There was a cataclysmic shriek of metal smashing into metal, a crystalline explosion of shattering glass, and then a profound silence. a strange sensation of weightlessness overtook him. Diego felt himself floating, rising slowly, passing through the crumpled roof of his taxi as if it were nothing more than smoke. Below him, a horrifying scene unfolded. His taxi was a mangled heap of twisted metal. The truck driver clutched his head, his screams lost in the storm. In the distance, the wail of an ambulance siren grew closer. There was no fear in him, only a deep, bewildered confusion. "That's me?" he wondered aloud to the empty air. Paramedics rushed to the wreckage, prying at the doors. Their voices were urgent shouts in the night. "Vitals are weak. Blood pressure's crashing fast. We're losing him." Diego saw it all. He heard everything, but no one could see him. He was a spirit, caught between two worlds. As he watched the paramedics' desperate attempts to save his body, a warm, gentle light began to shine from behind him. He turned slowly and saw two luminous beings standing before him. They were angels, yet radiated an aura of absolute peace. One, carrying a feminine presence, stepped forward. Her voice echoed softly in his mind, like a calming melody. "Be still, Diego." Startled, he stumbled back. Who are you? I'm not dead. I'm not supposed to die. My wife and my son, they're waiting for me. Leo, he needs me." The second being, exuding a masculine presence, answered with calm assurance, "You are not dead, but you weren't truly living either. You are in between." "I have to go back," Diego said. "I need to work. I need the money for Leo's camp." "Exactly," the feminine being, Ilara, replied. "That is why you must come with us. There are things you need to understand about life, about work, and about a truth you've been hiding from yourself." "What truth?" "The truth is, I'm a loser, a useless father." Ilara gently extended a glowing hand toward him. "The truth is, you had the right to live differently. Come, it's time you see it for yourself." Diego hesitated. He looked one last time at the ambulance carrying away his lifeless body, then back at the serene beings. For the first time, a thought flickered. Perhaps there was another way. Slowly, he reached out. As his hand touched the light, the chaotic crash scene faded, and he was swept into a brilliant stream of light and color. When Diego opened his eyes, he was standing in an indescribable place. It was not a cliché heaven of clouds and angels, but a boundless realm where nature, art, and architecture were seamlessly woven together. Gardens glowed with impossible plants, libraries stretched to sky-high ceilings, and a profound sense of calm filled the air. "This is a place for reflection and understanding," Kale's voice explained, "a space to see the bigger picture." "Is this heaven?" Diego asked, stunned. "This is where souls come to gather themselves," Ilara clarified. "For some, it's a station. For others, a classroom. For you, it's the latter." They guided him to a room that, astonishingly, looked exactly like his grandfather's old study. Wooden bookshelves packed with volumes, an aged writing desk, the comforting scent of wood and paper. It was all there. And behind the desk sat Grandfather Mateo, healthy and vibrant, with the same warm smile Diego remembered from his childhood. "Welcome, my Diego," Mateo said. Tears welled in Diego's eyes. He took trembling steps forward and fell into his grandfather's arms, an embrace he had been denied for so many years. "Grandpa, I missed you so much." "I've always been by your side, my boy," Mateo said softly. "You were just too busy to notice. Sit down. We have a lot to talk about." As Ilara and Kale faded away, Diego sat and poured out years of pain, the poverty, the shame, the feeling of failure. Mateo listened patiently until Diego fell silent. Diego, he began, his tone calm but firm, you believe poverty is a virtue and that struggling is noble. But has this struggle brought you joy? Has it brought joy to Sophia, to Leo? Diego shook his head. The purpose of life is to grow, to blossom, to become everything you have the potential to be, Mateo continued. That is your right. To deny yourself the tools you need for that growth, that is the true failure. But I always thought wanting too much money was greed, Diego protested. Why? Your desire for a better home, for Leo's education, that's not greed. That is life itself trying to express more fully through you. You have the right to be wealthy because you have the right to live fully. Mateo rose and walked to a window that opened onto an endless, radiant garden. We live for three things: the body, the mind, and the soul. None is holier than the other. Look at your life. Your body, you work to the breaking point on cheap food in a cold house. It is not truly alive. Your mind, when did you last read a book or see something beautiful? It is starving. And your soul, love's most beautiful expression is in giving. When poverty stops you from buying a small gift or taking your son on an outing, it is suffocating your soul. You cannot be a whole husband or father when you have nothing left to give. Every word was a key unlocking an ancient door in Diego's mind. Becoming wealthy is of the highest importance, Mateo concluded. Not for showing off, not for greed, but so you can keep your body alive, nurture your mind, and let your soul flourish. That is the greatest service you can offer the universe, to become the best possible version of yourself. Diego was dazed, the foundation of his beliefs shattered. So, all this time, I was wrong? Mateo smiled gently. You've been following the wrong map. It's time to change it. Ilara reappeared. This was just your first lesson, Diego. You have a long journey ahead to truly learn the science of living. Diego walked to the window, gazing at the endless garden. For the first time, instead of feeling guilty for wanting more, a spark of hope flickered within him. Hope for a richer, fuller life of true abundance. He stood there, his face a mask of shock and confusion, as a new decision began to stir within him. He realized he had to reevaluate his entire life from the very beginning.